Welcome to the Judgment Free Zone. You've downloaded the Alcohol Free Marriage Podcast, episode number 2 for April 11th, 2022.
Psst. You're listening to a Red Corn Studios production. Don't tell your mama.
Now adjust the volume control so that the sound can be heard in all parts of the room.
Recorded live from the cornfields of Central Illinois, you're listening to the Alcohol Free Marriage Podcast with Matt and Amy. Come and learn and share a journey with two former craft beer enthusiasts who went from daily drinkers to teetotalers and basically never lost their love for their life together.
Hey, a freak show!
Oh, hello, children. Welcome back to the what do we call it again? Alcohol Free Marriage Podcast.
Yeah, that's what we call it, Matt. That's what we're doing here.
I am Matt, along with the always lovely Coach Amy over there. How are you, my love?
I am doing great.
Nope, I'm turning you down. I want to turn that music down. How about that? There we go.
Okay.
Hey, give us a break. It's only week number 2, Amy.
Holy cow. Week number 2. Can you believe it?
Only week 2.
Last time we did a podcast, not last week, but prior to, it had been, 5 to 7 years ago? Something like that?
You know what? I can't even begin to keep track. No, at least 5 or 7. Sorry, I was kind of not listening because I'm still trying to mess with
I know.
stuff.
We're trying to figure all this out. We're doing a different setup this week.
Because, as last week we said, the podcast had gotten easier because of all this new technology that they have. And then Amy proceeded to say, let's do it on video. And then, of course, my brain proceeded to say, we need to make it fancy. So if you're watching on video, this is about as fancy as we're getting so far.
Not yet. I've got projects in mind.
Of course you do. All right, well, Joe, welcome back. This is episode number 2. Thank you for all the feedback from episode number 1, all you Facebook friends. And I don't know, we've had a couple reviews on one of the podcast feeds. We finally got the podcast out to all the most popular of the podcasting channels. Like, what podcast? Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and I guess Google has one. I don't know. I'm not really an Android Google person, so I didn't know they even had one, but they did.
So make sure you go out there and like, share, subscribe, leave us a comment. It helps. It really does. I don't know what all this is helping with, but it supposedly is going to help.
I suppose it's going to help.
I don't know, guys. This is all new.
Okay, I know. I trained her to be really close to the mic, and now she doesn't. She doesn't have to be as aggressive, so she's having a hard time with.
So you want me back here?
You're perfect right there.
Oh, okay.
You sound awesome right there.
Thank you.
Keep it beautiful. There you go.
Thank you.
And I love the way they set this up. It gives me a really low voice, so I'm not really this deep in a person. Trust me. Amy, this week's drink of the week is brought to you by. Not brought to you by, just because it's brought to you by you to the basement to me, is Big Drop Brewing Coba Maya Mexi style. It's on camera if you're watching on the video on YouTube. This, of course, is non-alcoholic. So anyway, it's I don't know what it's supposed to mimic, but it's very good. So
I kind of thought it was kind of Corona-esque.
I don't think it's as skunky as Corona, though.
Well, okay.
But
still, it's a nice, I would say that this is going to be one of those nice...
It's a summer beer.
In the summer.
Amy, it's a crisp, clean lawnmower style brew, which pours the color of straw in the sunlight. Wow. A balanced malt punch on the palate with a gentle, spicy, and herbal aroma of German noble hops. Stick a slice of lime in it and enjoy. Mexi style. Store, chilled, and enjoy.
Mexi style.
Whatever that
is.
Man, so Corona, to your point. Yeah, it's sort of.
I think so.
I guess so.
And I made myself a little bit of a mixed drink. And so I have Seed Lips Spice. And I just love the artwork on all of this. So it's kind of like a rum. And
it's designed to mimic the rums.
Yeah, and then I went ahead and mixed it with Spindrift. Is that right?
I don't know. I wasn't up there making it.
I'm just saying, am I saying that correctly? It's Spindrift, right?
Spindrift is the product, if that's what you mixed it with.
So
that's actually the one that we tried a couple weeks ago at the grocery store where they were doing actually non-alcoholic taste tests, which that's the first time I think I've ever seen that.
It was for us, it was really...
Shocking.
Quite shocking. But it was really nice. It was
really, I
really
them,
nice.
And it was apparently working because they had a lot of seed lip, but they were down to like 2 bottles of the one they were sampling. So obviously people were trying it, people were liking it, and people were buying it.
Yeah.
And we did as well.
at our local grocery store. And for those of you
The Hy-Vees here in the cornfields.
Yep, they
Not a sponsor because we don't have a sponsor.
we don't have a sponsor. Well, we'll be our own sponsors.
Yeah, there you go. We'll welcome them as sponsors.
It's sponsored by Joy on the Other Side Coaching and
Red Corn Studios.
there you go.
There you go. Anybody else want to throw? Well, we'll
How
tell.
many side businesses and businesses can we throw in here?
Hey, let's just tell Big Drop Brewing and Hy-Vee and Seed Lip
And Seed Lip.
they get one freebie and then they gotta start paying.
Oh, I'm sure that
For
they're
the-
going to be right all over it.
I don't even know
won't
if
they?
I can say to the tens of our listeners yet. I think it's
No, we're
still,
not there yet. I don't even. We might still be in the ones.
We may be in the ones. Amy, so I want to talk about how your week was, how my week was briefly. My week, I want to talk about a trigger, not a trigger moment. That's not probably the right term, but a moment when I was working a video shoot at a conference.
Okay.
And those of you who've been to conferences, they got the conference vibe, and you always kind of get in that conference mode, that mojo, and specifically the evening happy hour cocktail time. And obviously, I'm working, I'm shooting video, taking pictures, so I'm not there to drink, but just got in that mental mindset of, oh, you know, that kind of sounds. And then I started thinking, like, what would I do if I could drink? No, I probably wouldn't, but you know, left to my own devices, it's like you're in that environment. There's no other than, as we know, a lot of times you get a pop as your, or a soda, depending where you're from, as your non-alcoholic option. What do you do? What you like to? This was I thought would be a good chance for you to coach me. What's a skill that I could take to put through my own brain as I'm sitting there going, oh, look at all these people. I'm going to use big air quotes, you know, having fun, enjoying themselves, you know, liking the cocktail life here, having, you know,
Well,
the
I think
libation.
I mean, you know, honestly, they are. I mean, they're enjoying it. But I guess for you, what do you feel like you're missing out on? You know, are you missing out on that feeling of the drink, or are you missing out on that feeling of camaraderie with others? What is it that you feel like you're missing in all of it?
It probably becomes one of those, what do you call it? Like those memories of, you know, your brain's trick of memories of days gone by. Oh, it felt so good. And yeah.
Some romanticism.
Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Romanticism. Like romancing the stone.
Yeah. We get these rosy.
Yeah.
What is it? Rose tinted
glasses.
Yes, rose tinted or rose colored glasses, and you're looking through it and you're thinking, "Oh, think about that. It was so nice. It was wonderful."
My brain doesn't remember the hangovers, but yeah.
Hey, fast forward to how did you usually feel in the middle of the night? Well, that doesn't work for you because you didn't wake up, did you?
No. But one thing that did.
What did you feel like in the morning?
Well, and the other thing though is that evening progressed. Then I'm watching everybody sit down to eat, and then I notice people trying to sneak out to go get a drink. And I remember those days of being at events and like, oh, well, we're all sitting at these tables and the bar's not to say closed, but it's far away. And do I want to be that one person to get up and go get a drink by myself? You know, it's like, who else wants a drink?
And you're gauging it.
And then you start playing the games in your head because you're sitting at the table and you don't want your beer cans piling up. So it's like, how do I take a can, replace a can without looking like I'm drinking as much as I'm really drinking? So all those thoughts came through my mind too. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm not drinking at this event, which I wasn't, but anyway, if I was at that event and not drinking, I'm like, that's one thing I wouldn't have to think about. Use all that brain power.
Headspace. I was going to say, you're right now, that headspace game that you're playing with yourself right now, I'm sitting there going, holy cow, that's a lot. And yeah. I would add on to that. I did a post yesterday because I started to kind of have those, not feelings of that, but I was just kind of thinking back to my old routines. And my old routine our old routine on Fridays was that 3 o'clock, you know, at 3 o'clock, we're going to go to the brewery.
Well, it's like that magic time, right? 5 o'clock. Yeah. It's like whatever.
And Fridays for us, it had become
3 o'clock at the Tap House.
And, we really, really, I mean, it started kind of those thoughts started on Wednesday for me. I started thinking about Friday at 3 on Wednesdays. See? And so that was the thing. And it was like, okay, we're getting closer. But I wanted to also bring up, we were talking earlier, but what about those moments of freedom? Those moments of freedom after you've quit drinking.
Like?
For me, it's just that, like, if we go to an event, and we're doing something, I'm so excited when I get in my car now.
Oh,
I don't have to. I seriously.
you're not worried about getting pulled
I
over.
do not have to worry anymore. Should I have had that second glass of wine? Those are the things because, I was very.
It's one thing I did not have to worry about this week when I was doing that.
So that for me. And then also Friday night, what did we do last night that we never would have done in years past?
I guess we could have, because now they do sell alcohol, but we went to a movie. Now, albeit not an awesome movie, but it was a little date night.
No, but we left. What time did we leave to go see the movie?
6:15 on a Friday night, which usually by then we would have had enough
We would have
drink.
never left at 6:15.
because we'd been 3 or 4 drinks in and been like, I can't drive anywhere, let alone want to drive anywhere.
So for me, no, albeit that movie, like you said, this was a movie for you. This was a movie for you.
For those curious, we went to go see the movie Ambulance. It's a Michael Bay movie. It's kind of like Transformers without Transformers, to be honest. But
It would have been much more entertaining in my own house where I could have left the room periodically during scenes that were driving me insane.
I mainly went because there's a lot of FPV drone footage, and it's like used a lot in the movie, and I kind of wanted to see that. And really, that's the biggest takeaway for me. So
anyways,
Anyway.
it was.
But Amy, you're
okay.
getting into a topic, and this week's topic that we wanted to discuss was your story. And I'm sorry, you know what? We don't have all these fun bumpers that we used to have on the old podcast yet. I mean, we could use them, but they don't really align to this podcast. So not this time.
I'll just put one in.
Here, let's go into your story, Amy. Let's talk about your past.
I don't think that's at all appropriate.
It's your past. We're going back in time. So, Amy, we still need to figure out how to set this up because I can't read my notes.
You can't read your notes?
Well, I don't have. Oh, I guess I can do what you do.
Yeah,
Anyway.
You can bring that closer if you need.
How did it start for you, Amy? Not the quitting, the drinking.
Okay. Well,
You were a wee lass.
Yep. Actually, I went back. Well, no, I mean, I was in high school.
Yeah.
Like not any, but
Many. Especially in the 80s. Come on now.
Especially in the 80s, especially in where I grew up.
In the country.
In the cornfields.
And this is before meth, so, you had nothing else.
Oh my gosh. Not even. So, so, I mean, it was just that typical running around with friends, sneaking, getting somebody older to buy us alcohol, getting, or finding those places that we could get served. I don't know. I mean, that was just pretty normal. A lot of when we would go out, it wasn't all the time, but when we did, it usually involved binge drinking, which is kind of
because when you get your hands on
now.
it, you weren't going to do it all the time. So it's like, oh, well, we got it. Let's just take it all in.
And so we would, that was kind of the thing. It honestly, what's kind of funny, it was very much revolved around the weather for me anyways, because when you were in the fall, in the summer, and the spring, you could go out in the middle of a cornfield and drink, or wherever we would go. But in the winter months, it was a lot harder to sneak.
Anybody have a heated barn we can go to?
Well, I will say, I'm sure that there were times that I do remember a few times going to different places, but it was really normal. And it also also brought up a lot of things, and we can talk about this later, about when we had kids of our own. That totally freaked me out because I knew how easy and I knew everything that I did to go out with friends. And there were occasional house parties and things like that. Typically, it was drinking too much.
Cheap beer,
or schnapps or something disgusting, and getting, not always, but frequently, I think, people getting sick. I was one of those who frequently got sick. So
that carries through.
So you fast forward, then college was pretty much, it was normal. I mean,
normal. Let's use air quotes again.
I did fine. I got, really pretty good grades in college. And I worked at times 2 jobs went out with friends, and went to school full time. And completely normal, never affected anything.
Well, that's when we're young and our brains and bodies can handle it a little easier.
And then as I got older, during my first marriage, it was more still that same, going out with friends, not as often. When we would go and have house parties with friends, usually then it would get kind of ugly.
Right. You're not buying the beer, you're buying the cup.
But also for me, my ex did actually at that time had alcoholism as a young man, and actually throughout his entire adult life, that he struggled with that. But so that made me very conscious of that. So I really, at that time, had things really, I think, in check. Fast forward, meet you.
I don't have a fast forward sound. I only have a back in time sound.
And you're the party guy. I was party gal. We were in radio sales, which, as every industry out there is, boozy. I mean, I don't think there's an industry that isn't.
Some are more boozy than others, but
yeah. But we were doing all the.
The only way to get through media sales is to be boozy, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have remotes at bars. At that time of our life, that was kind of what we did.
Taking clients to meals and.
Yeah. So that still was normal. We had when we had our kids, it really slowed down. It was more of
when the kids are really young,
it was not.
It's harder unless you want to stay up later to really get a lot. I mean, it's obviously possible if you want to, but in our model anyway, we've never been late night people anyway. So by the time the kids are in bed and you really had time to tie one on, hell, we were too tired.
No, and I think it was more back then for me. It was like, okay, I had the rules. Even back then, I had the rules.
What were some of your rules, Amy?
Well, when the kids were little, it was Friday night. You would either have a drink or two on Friday night or a drink or two on Saturday night. That was it. I didn't drink on both nights. I think a lot of that also was because of budget. I mean, just cost. And also, you're taking care of your kids. And when Luke was little, he suffered from ear infections and all of these different things. It was like there was no way that I was going to be doing that. But primarily when we would go for weekends, if we would do a weekend event or have fun like that, it always revolved around going somewhere.
Oh, of course, yeah.
and drinking and that. So, but for me, when drinking really changed would have been in my 40s is when the stress of life, kids getting older, kids not needing you as much.
So back to you're not having to take care of them till you're dead asleep. So
so there was much more the free time and then just in general, the stress of just life in general and family and when you're a person who used to have a career and then doesn't have a career, and then there's all of those emotional things going around it. Then you sometimes bring in that victim mentality of, even though you made decisions together as a couple because you at the time were really traveling a lot, so it made sense that one of us
was sober.
Well, no, not being that, but you had to have somebody who had a very flexible schedule.
Right.
And so, I went and I worked for your parents, and I still do, but it was one of those where it was like, okay, there was a lot of those pressures being put to one person. And when you would leave, I didn't drink. But then as the kids got older, then that drinking did, like, I think it was probably when Luke got to junior high. It was like, oh, well, now we can go have fun. We can do this. We can leave the kids at home for a little bit.
Right.
They're older. We can go and have fun. And so I started to drink to numb. I've always suffered from anxiety. And as you progress in your drinking, it just kind of kept creeping up. Like I didn't, like my rules that I said, I drank only on Friday. Well, over time that turned into
Saturday,
Friday and Saturday. And I would never drink on Sunday until it felt good to have a glass of wine while we're folding laundry. Let's have a glass of wine or a beer.
Well, let's be honest. Laundry folding is not the most exciting thing. So, anything to
Well, and then it would
laundry.
go to,
Thursday starts the weekend.
I'm gonna pay bills. Well,
Another good reason to drink.
You know what? I get a reward. You know,
The reward.
deserve.
Right.
That whole, those types of things started up. So, and then as you're aging, as a woman is in her 40s, and as I'm getting, let's see, I think I would say around 45 for me, I started to, as a woman, you start to go through the change of life, So things were happening, and I started to have hot flashes and different things like that. And I remember going to the doctor, and her and I guess it was the nurse practitioner. We were talking about red wine, and I'm like, oh, she said, well, do you drink red wine? Yeah. Well, that's probably what's causing your hot flashes. And then I quit drinking red wine, and my hot flashes went away. So I'm like, oh.
I can only drink white wine.
I can drink white wine. So I was drinking white wine. White wine didn't give me hot flashes.
Problem solved, right?
Until white wine started giving me hot flashes. So, it's not something I never was drinking like a lot. I mean, it was
just
like
consistently.
It was just like a 1 or 2, and it was usually, then it got to be like on the, it really became, I was drinking probably at least 5 days a week, and when in general, and you only have one drink. One drink usually always turned to 2.
Right. Oh.
And,
How many actually have one drink?
And then as as time was going on, I'm having more anxiety. I'm having all of these different, just stressors and going. I mean, I even went to therapy for a while, which was very good. But even my therapist never talked to me about alcohol. Now, in her defense.
Good, bad, or otherwise, just.
In her defense, even if she probably would have brought it up, I probably would have been like, oh, I don't have a problem.
Right.
But
it's always compared to what, right? It's like, well, I'm not as bad as that person, or I'm not dead under a bridge, or whatever.
And the thing for me, it was like, okay, well, why am I drinking more? Why am I drinking more?
Is this the beginning of your sober curious journey?
I don't, maybe. I think for me, it just kept getting, I just kept feeling worse. It wasn't like I felt horrible, because it wasn't like I was going out on, drinking a bottle or 2 of wine a night. It was just, this consistent. Now, I will say there were games I played in my head when you buy a bottle of wine and then all of a sudden you're like, well, crap, there's only, maybe, like on nights where I'd be like, oh, there's only a glass left. What the heck?
That's why I moved to box wine.
Yeah, when you move to box wine.
A, you get more, and B, you can see how much is in it.
And, as you progress through this, and then you add in, you've got a teenager, and then you have a teenage boy dating. And then you start worrying about.
But how much do they become just excuses to do it, right? Versus real reasons.
And, then you're sitting there and you're telling your teenager, don't drink. Don't you dare drink and drive.
Hold on, huh?
Yeah, call me, and
Let me go get a glass of wine, don't drink.
I think we did. Yes, exactly. Oh, and always that, when you're 21, it's like this magical age. You're going to be 21. And then what happens? Oh, the light switch turns. And then all of a sudden, you can drink. And drink responsibly. Well, what the heck? So, I won't even say, because this is, I'm not going to swear. But as this progressed, I just kept feeling worse and worse. And then you start to Google, what's an alcoholic? Okay, am I an alcoholic? Or what are the signs that you're an alcoholic? Or how many drinks does it take to be an alcoholic?
What'd you always tell me? If you're Googling, am I an alcoholic, you may have a problem.
You might have, and
because people who don't have a drinking problem don't Google to have a drinking problem.
This. You don't have this. And so for me, those types of things started, and I just, honestly, I felt every single day, there at the end, I started to just, and I really probably was questioning my drinking for probably maybe at least 7 years. And then, and now probably even longer than that. But then, because it's this trick that you're like, oh, well, no, I'm fine. I haven't lost my job. I'm not missing work. I haven't gotten a DUI.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time, right?
I mean, I haven't done any of these things. I'm not a person, who's homeless and, is drinking out of a brown bottle. And I mean, there's so many of these misconceptions and how as society we've labeled these people like, oh, this is bad. I mean,
right.
I'm not drinking before 5, except until we were drinking at 3.
Yeah, 3 becomes, 5 becomes 3. Yeah.
So there was all these rules. And so then I would have, the rules would come in and they would go out. And then it would be like, okay,
you always been the rules.
You've got this under control. You're good. And then all of a sudden you're not. Something happens at, whatever, you have a bad customer and you come home and you're like, oh, I'm going to have a drink. I'm going to, this is going to relax me. And so you start down this path. And then you wake up one morning and you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're completely coming unglued with anxiety. And so I guess probably the tipping point for me was watching a movie with you and Luke in 2020. It would have been January before he went back to school. And I drank too much and, having a brownout where I was like remembering part of the evening, but not. And I just remember going, oh gosh, I can't let that ever happen again. I don't want to drink like that or drink with my kid like that.
And that, Amy,
and he wasn't even drinking.
And that is a perfect spot because I want to make this like a cliffhanger. I want people to tune in next week because I want to pick up from here and talk about your sober journey. Then once you've hit, we're going to leave you at the bottom of the rock bottom of the rock.
Well, no, and I guess I was a high bottom.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
High bottom?
High bottom.
Not fat bottom? Whoa!
Now what are we going to do, Matt?
No, we were going to close out the show. Or make people go down.
I thought you were going to do some news. Did you not do your part?
I wrote booze news, but I didn't come up with any booze news. So
all right. Well, we can add that in later.
That's true. And pick up.
So now we're gonna leave this as a cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger.
We
Amy.
better remember to listen to this where I left off.
Yeah, I figured. Listen to this before we do next week's because then you'll know where you were in the story. But
there you go. Wow.
All right, kids. Well, that's it for the this week's episode of the Alcohol-Free Marriage Podcast. If you would like to have a little coaching, reach out to Coach Amy at joyontheotherside.com, and she'd be happy to talk you through some of this fun-filled coaching that I get on the daily for free. Ain't I so lucky, kids? All right, Amy. Well, I think that's it for this week. Wish you peace and love from the cornfields. I'm Matt, along with Coach Amy, and we are out.